The morning sun rose over the alien city, painting the towers and streams in soft gold. The air was filled with a quiet energy, one that carried relief, hope, and a sense of renewal. Ethan stood on a terrace watching the world awaken. The battle had ended. The city was safe, and yet he felt a new weight. A responsibility not just to survive, but to protect, to honor the bond that had guided him here. Liara joined him, her presence calm but powerful. She had been moving among her people, ensuring the recovery went smoothly, but now she sought a moment of quiet with him. The connection between them had deepened over the past days, evolving from childhood memory to shared action, and now to trust. "You've done more than anyone could ask, Ethan," she said softly. "You've proven that humans are not defined by what they lack, but by what they bring to the universe: courage, loyalty, and ingenuity." Ethan looked at her, a sense of humility washing over him. I did what I could, but being here, seeing everything, fighting alongside your people, it changed me. Humans can do a lot when we have a reason, when we have something worth protecting." Liara nodded. "And you have given us that reason, Ethan. Your presence reminded my people and me that strength is not only in weapons or technology, it is in heart, in thought, and in the choices one makes. That is what keeps civilizations alive." They walked through the city streets together, passing citizens who waved and offered smiles of gratitude. Some had once doubted Ethan's role, unsure of a human's place among such advanced beings. But after witnessing his courage and insight during the battle, opinions had changed. The young guardians who trained alongside him looked at him with admiration. Even the elders, usually reserved and cautious, offered nods of approval. Ethan realized that being human carried weight not because of power, but because of qualities that could inspire others. Humans could adapt, think creatively, and act with loyalty even in situations that seemed hopeless. Those were traits that no weapon or shield could replace, and in that moment he felt pride. Not arrogance, but a deep recognition of what humans could achieve. Liara led him to the Hall of Memory once more. The chamber glowed softly in the early light, and the patterns on the walls seemed to shimmer with life. This was a place where past, present, and future intertwined, and Ethan felt honored to stand here. "You remember the promise we made as children?" Liara asked quietly.
"Do you understand now why it mattered?"
Ethan thought back to that distant day. The laughter, the curiosity, the simple words spoken between two beings who had no idea what the future held. "I understand," he said finally. "I understand that promises aren't just words. They're trust. They're action. They can guide us even across worlds." Liara smiled, a small, genuine curve of her lips. "Yes, and today you have shown that such bonds can influence more than hearts. They can shape destiny." She gestured to the walls of the hall, which now displayed new images. Scenes from the battle, the strategies implemented, and the moments where Ethan's human insight had turned the tide were all recorded here. It was more than memory. It was proof that actions rooted in courage and trust could inspire entire civilizations. Ethan studied the images, feeling a mixture of awe and humility. "I never imagined that what we did, that my decisions could mean this much. But I see now, humans can make a difference in ways that matter." Liara reached out and placed a hand on his shoulder. "You have proven that, Ethan, and not only to us, but to yourself. You have grown from a child who made a promise into a human whose heart shapes worlds." They left the hall together, stepping into the warm morning light. Ethan noticed the way the city thrived. Children playing near streams, citizens tending to plants and structures, guardians practicing with precision and care. Life had returned to a rhythm, one that balanced strength and beauty, duty and joy. Liara stopped near the central plaza and turned to him. "There is one more thing you must understand," she said. "The promise we made is not just a memory. It is a responsibility. It binds us to each other and to the future we wish to create. Your actions have ensured that this city will flourish, but the bond we share will continue to guide us." Ethan nodded slowly. "I won't forget. I never will. The promise. It's part of who I am now." Liara smiled, a warmth in her eyes that Ethan had not seen before. "Then you are ready for what comes next." In the following days, Ethan worked with Liara to strengthen the city further. They trained young guardians, shared strategies, and developed systems that combined alien technology with human creativity. The people learned to respect his insights, realizing that human qualities, adaptability, empathy, and ingenuity were as vital as their advanced shields and weapons. One afternoon, as the twin moons rose, Ethan and Liara stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The streams reflected silver light, and the air was filled with the gentle hum of life. For a moment, the world seemed still, as if acknowledging the bond between them and the strength it had created. "You've done more than I could have imagined," Liara said softly. "Your presence has changed this city and my people. But most importantly, it has reminded me of the power of connection, of promises kept across time." Ethan smiled. "And you've reminded me of what it means to be human. Courage, loyalty, creativity, these aren't just words. They're actions. They're what makes us capable of more than we think." Liara's gaze softened. "You understand now that being human is remarkable, not because of strength or technology, but because of heart. That is why you were remembered, and that is why your promise mattered." Ethan felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The bond they shared, formed in childhood and strengthened through trials, was a testament to the power of trust and action. It had led him to this world, allowed him to influence its fate, and shown him that humans had a role to play in the galaxy, far beyond exploration or conquest. Over the following weeks, Ethan became an integral part of the city. He worked alongside Liara to improve communication with other alien worlds, sharing strategies and insights that demonstrated the unique qualities of humans. He trained with the young Guardians, teaching them how to think creatively, adapt to challenges, and act with empathy. Through it all, the bond with Liara remained central. They shared quiet moments of reflection, laughed at small misunderstandings, and supported each other in times of challenge. The promise from their childhood had transformed into a living connection, one that guided their actions and inspired those around them. One evening, as the city rested under the light of the twin moons, Liara approached Ethan. "You have proven that humans are capable of greatness," she said. "But more than that, you have shown that trust and loyalty can shape worlds. That is the legacy of your promise." Ethan looked at her, feeling a sense of awe and gratitude. "I never imagined it could be this meaningful. I thought it was just a memory, just a promise from a child. But it's more than that, it's a part of who we are now." Liara nodded. "Exactly. And that is why the bond between us matters. It has influenced actions, decisions, and even the fate of our city. That is the power of a promise kept with heart." Ethan realized that the lessons he had learned here went beyond this city or this planet. They were universal truths about courage, loyalty, and human potential. He understood that humans could inspire, protect, and make a difference in ways that other species might not expect. It was a quiet strength, a persistent force that could endure even in the vast expanse of the universe. The city around them was alive with gentle energy. Citizens moved with purpose, young Guardians trained with dedication, and the alien world itself seemed to resonate with life and hope. Ethan felt proud, not just of what he had done, but of what humans could achieve when they acted with heart, creativity, and loyalty. Liara turned to him, her expression soft and thoughtful. "Remember, Ethan, this is not the end. The promise continues, guiding our actions and shaping our future. Together we will face challenges, and together we will ensure that what we value thrives." Ethan nodded, feeling a deep sense of responsibility and determination. "I will honor it, always." For the first time in his life, he fully understood the power of human qualities, the courage to act, the loyalty to protect, and the creativity to solve problems. Those traits had saved a city, strengthened a bond, and proven that humans could inspire and influence even the most advanced civilizations. As the twin moons reflected off the streams and towers, Ethan and Liara stood side by side, united by a promise that had endured time, distance, and trials. The world around them was safe, the bond between human and alien stronger than ever, and the future full of possibilities. And in that quiet, powerful moment, Ethan knew that being human was extraordinary, not for strength or technology, but for heart, courage, and the ability to keep promises that mattered. The childhood promise had grown into a living testament of trust. Ethan followed the glowing path deeper into the alien city, his eyes widening at every turn. The buildings seemed alive, as if they had grown organically from the ground. Bridges of translucent material arched over streams that sparkled in colors he had never seen before. Strange flowers released soft, melodic hums as he walked past, and the air was scented with a gentle, sweet fragrance that made him feel calm and alert at the same time. Every step he took reminded him that he was no longer in a place humans fully understood. Liara walked beside him, her movements effortless and fluid. She did not speak much, but Ethan could sense her awareness of every detail around them. Even the smallest ripple in the water or the soft rustle of leaves seemed to register with her. Occasionally she would glance at him, her eyes searching for understanding, as if she wanted to see what he saw. "You've built all this yourself?" Ethan asked quietly, trying not to sound amazed. Liara shook her head. "Not by myself. My people and I have guided it. The city grows with us, responding to our intentions and needs. It is a living home shaped by harmony rather than force." Ethan marveled at her words. He had visited many human cities and settlements, but nothing he had seen came close to this. There was no harshness, no overbearing structures dominating the landscape. Every curve, every light, every sound seemed purposeful and gentle, a reflection of her people's values. As they walked, Liara led him into a large hall that opened into a circular chamber. The ceiling arched high above, shimmering with natural light that filtered through what looked like crystalline leaves. The walls were decorated with patterns that seemed to move and change as he looked at them, telling stories without words. "This is the Hall of Memory," Liara said softly. "It preserves the history of my people. Every moment, every thought, every action is recorded here, not to punish but to remember and learn." Ethan stepped closer, trying to take it all in. "It's beautiful. I've never seen anything like it," Liara nodded. "Humans often underestimate memory and history. You are taught to forget things that do not serve you, but memory can be a guide, a teacher, a promise kept. That is why I remember you." Ethan's heart thumped. Her words carried a weight he did not fully understand, yet he felt their truth. "You really remember everything?" he asked. "Everything important," Liara replied, "even small things that seemed meaningless at the time. That is the way I keep promises." He swallowed. "I never imagined a promise could last this long. I thought you might have moved on." Liara looked at him, her gaze steady and unwavering. "Promises are not something one moves on from. They are a bridge between hearts, between minds, between worlds. You made me a promise, and I keep it, just as I keep the promise to my people." For a moment, silence fell between them, filled only by the gentle hum of the hall. Ethan felt a sense of awe and humility. Humans prided themselves on bravery, intelligence, and ingenuity, but Liara's words reminded him that there were qualities humans possess that reached beyond technology or force, qualities that could inspire respect and trust across the galaxy. She guided him to a raised platform in the center of the hall. Ethan stepped carefully, noticing the intricate patterns beneath his feet. As he walked, he felt a subtle energy, like the hall was aware of him, acknowledging his presence. "You will see our traditions here," Liara said. "We test those who wish to enter our city, not with weapons but with challenges of mind, heart, and courage. To survive here, one must prove that they can respect life, that they can think beyond themselves, that they can act with intention." Ethan nodded. "I'm ready," he said, though a part of him wondered what he was truly prepared for. Liara led him to a glowing archway at the edge of the platform. "Step through and you will face simulations that reveal your nature. You may succeed or you may fail, but do not fear failure. It is often the teacher you need most." Ethan took a deep breath and stepped forward. The light enveloped him, and suddenly he was standing in a world that seemed familiar yet strange. He was back on Earth, or a version of it, but everything was slightly altered. Trees grew taller than he remembered. Rivers flowed with silver water, and the sky shimmered with colors he could not name. A voice spoke from nowhere. "Ethan, why do you walk this world?" He looked around, trying to find the source. I want to understand. I want to learn. I want to protect." "Protection requires more than courage. It requires insight. It requires heart." Ethan nodded, feeling the truth of the words. He moved forward cautiously, noticing challenges appear in front of him. A bridge over a chasm trembled as he stepped on it. He had to balance carefully, thinking quickly about weight, timing, and trust. Then a pack of shadowy figures appeared, testing his reactions. He dodged, blocked, and found clever ways to outmaneuver them without harming them, showing that he valued life, even in simulation. Hours, or what felt like hours, passed. He climbed mountains, crossed rivers, and solved puzzles that required not only intelligence, but empathy. Each trial tested a different part of him. His courage was tested when he faced dangerous terrain. His compassion was tested when he had to help simulated creatures in distress. His loyalty and honesty were tested through choices that had no clear answers. Finally, the simulations ended. Ethan fell to his knees, exhausted but exhilarated. The world faded, and he found himself back in the Hall of Memory. Liara stood before him, her expression unreadable. "You have done well," she said quietly. "You have shown qualities that not all humans possess. Curiosity tempered by caution, courage balanced with compassion, and a mind willing to learn from mistakes. These are qualities my people respect." Ethan struggled to catch his breath. "Thank you." "Liara, I didn't know. I didn't realize how much this would mean to me." She stepped closer, studying him with quiet intensity. "You are remarkable, Ethan. Even among your kind, your heart stands out. That is why I remember you. That is why your promise matters." Ethan felt a warmth spread through his chest. For so long he had worried that the promise from his childhood was meaningless, that time and distance had erased it. Yet here she was, a living reminder that some bonds could not be broken. Liara led him out of the hall and onto a balcony overlooking the city. The twin moons shone above, reflecting off the flowing streams and glowing towers below. Ethan had seen wonders across the stars, but this blend of natural beauty, advanced civilization, and heartfelt memory was unlike anything he had imagined. "You see," Liara said softly, "strength is not only measured by power. It is measured by the choices you make, the promises you keep, and the courage to act when it matters most." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "I understand. More than I ever did before." She smiled faintly. "Then you are ready to meet the next part of our world. The part where humans and aliens may learn from each other, where trust is tested and where courage shapes destiny." He looked at her, feeling a mix of admiration, respect, and something he could not name yet. "I'm ready," he said, and he meant it with every part of him. As the night deepened and the city glowed softly beneath the twin moons, Ethan realized that this journey was more than a mission. It was a reunion, a test, and a discovery all at once. The bond of a childhood promise had led him here, but the qualities he carried as a human, the courage, curiosity, and loyalty, had allowed him to survive and earn trust. For the first time, he truly felt that being human was extraordinary, not because of technology or strength, but because of heart. And in the quiet of that alien city, he knew that this was only the beginning of an adventure that would challenge him, teach him, and show him the power of promises kept across time and space. As he stood beside Liara on the balcony, the wind brushing against his face, Ethan whispered softly, almost to himself, "I will not fail. I will honor that promise. Always." Liara's eyes met his, and for a moment they shared a silent understanding. Words were not needed. The past, the present, and the promise of the future were all connected in that moment. And as the twin moons bathed the city in silver light, Ethan felt a hope he had never known before. Hope that humans could inspire, that promises could endure, and that hearts could bridge worlds. Ethan had barely begun to feel comfortable in the alien city when news arrived that set the entire place on edge. Scouts returning from the distant mountains reported unusual activity. Strange ships hovering near the planet's outer atmosphere, their designs sharp, menacing, and unlike anything Liara's people had ever seen. The invaders were an alien faction known for conquest, a group that did not care for diplomacy or life. They sought power and domination, and the city Liara protected now stood directly in their path. Liara gathered her council, a circle of her people who had served as guardians and advisors for decades. Ethan was allowed to observe, though he felt like an outsider. Yet even in this room filled with beings far older and more experienced than he noticed the weight of his presence. Liara's eyes met his occasionally, a silent acknowledgement that he had already proven his worth. He was no longer just a visitor. He was someone they might need to trust. "The invaders are coming," Liara said, her voice calm but firm. "We have strength, but their technology is unpredictable. We must prepare every defense, every strategy, every possibility." Ethan leaned forward, thinking quickly. "I might be able to help," he said. "I've faced situations with limited resources before, and humans are good at improvising when we have to. Maybe there's a way to use what you already have against them." Liara studied him carefully. "You are not of this world, yet you wish to fight for it?" "Yes," Ethan said without hesitation. "I know humans are not always the strongest, but we find ways to survive. Sometimes thinking differently makes all the difference, Liara nodded slowly. Then speak your plan. He spent hours with the council, observing their technology, studying the layout of the city, and analyzing potential attack routes. He realized that their defenses were strong but conventional, relying on energy shields, patrols, and automated systems. The invaders, however, were unpredictable and would likely exploit weaknesses the city had never faced. Ethan suggested creating traps that used the city's natural resources. He recommended collapsing certain energy channels to create barriers, redirecting water flows to slow down the enemy ships, and using camouflage to make their forces harder to detect. He also emphasized the importance of understanding the enemy's psychology, how they would react to unexpected moves, to surprises they could not anticipate. Liara listened intently, sometimes interrupting to clarify details, sometimes observing quietly. When he finished, she looked at him with a mixture of respect and disbelief. "Humans are clever," she said softly. "Perhaps your ways are as valuable as our power." The next day, Ethan worked alongside Liara's engineers and guardians. It was exhausting, but he felt a thrill he had not experienced in years. They moved quickly, erecting defenses, recalibrating shields, and creating traps using combinations of alien technology and human ingenuity. He noticed that the alien warriors, though skilled and disciplined, sometimes underestimated unconventional methods. That was where he could make the most difference. As night fell, scouts reported that the invaders were approaching faster than expected. Ethan stood on the outer wall with Liara, gazing at the distant lights of the ships as they moved like swarms of predatory fireflies. The twin moons above cast silver reflections on the city below, making it appear serene despite the looming threat. "They are close," Liara said, her voice steady. "Are you ready?" Ethan nodded. "As ready as anyone can be. We'll have to trust each other." The first wave of attack came suddenly. Ships descended from the sky with blinding speed, firing beams of energy at the city walls. The shields held, but cracks began to appear. Liara's warriors moved with precision, countering the enemy's maneuvers, but even their superior technology could not predict every move the invaders made. Ethan activated his traps, causing sudden energy surges that forced enemy ships to swerve. Water channels he had redirected flooded narrow streets, creating barriers that slowed their advance. He used the environment itself as a weapon, showing the aliens that human creativity could be as deadly as laser fire. Liara noticed his movements, her eyes reflecting both surprise and admiration. "You are brave," she said to herself, though she knew he could hear her. Hours passed in a blur of action. Ethan dodged debris, coordinated with the city defenders, and found ingenious ways to outsmart the invaders at every turn. Even when a squad of enemy ground troops appeared, he led them into a maze of traps, using the city's structures and energy channels to create confusion and force retreats. At one point, a group of invaders broke through one of the outer gates. Ethan ran toward them, using quick thinking rather than force. He triggered a sequence that caused a ceiling above them to collapse, not harming them seriously but trapping them long enough for Liara's warriors to capture them. The alien princess herself appeared beside him, moving with graceful precision. She did not speak, but her presence was commanding, and together they acted as if they had known each other for years. "You are remarkable," she said quietly as they regrouped behind the walls. Ethan wiped sweat from his brow. "I just think differently," he admitted. "Sometimes humans see solutions where others see problems." The battle raged on for what felt like an eternity. Yet as dawn approached, it became clear that the invaders were losing ground. Ethan's strategies, combined with Liara's disciplined forces, had turned the tide. One by one, the enemy ships retreated, and their ground forces were captured or driven away. When the last ship disappeared over the horizon, a cheer rose from the city. Ethan sank to his knees, exhausted but exhilarated. Liara approached, her expression unreadable at first, but then a faint smile touched her lips. "You have done well," she said. "Not all who claim courage can act with such clarity. You have earned our respect, human." Ethan shook his head, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. "I couldn't have done it without you, Liara, your people, your city. It's incredible. I just helped where I could." She placed a hand on his shoulder, a gesture of trust and acknowledgement. It is rare to see someone from another world fight not for conquest but for protection. That is why your presence matters. That is why the promise you made all those years ago carries weight even now. He looked at her, understanding for the first time that their childhood promise was not just a memory. It had been a bridge to this moment. It had allowed him to connect, to act, and to make a difference in ways he had never imagined. As the city recovered, Ethan walked through the streets, observing the people. He saw the gratitude in their eyes, the way they moved with renewed confidence. The bond between human and alien was growing stronger, and he could feel it in every interaction. Humans had qualities that inspired others: courage, ingenuity, loyalty, and the willingness to act when it mattered most. Those qualities had turned the tide of battle. Later, Liara led him to a quiet terrace overlooking the city. The sun rose over the horizon, casting golden light over the towers and streams. Ethan felt a sense of peace and accomplishment. The city was safe for now, and the promise that had brought him here was honored in action, not just memory. "You have proven something important today," Liara said softly. "Humans are not always the strongest, but they are adaptable, clever, and brave. That is something my people will remember. That is something I will remember." Ethan smiled, feeling warmth spread through his chest. I never imagined it would mean so much. I thought the promise was just a childhood thing, but you made it real." Liara looked at him with eyes that held both pride and quiet admiration. Promises are never just words. They are the foundation of trust, and trust can change the course of events. Today, you showed that humans can keep their word and act with courage beyond expectation. They stood in silence for a while, watching the city awaken under the morning light. Ethan realized that the battle had not only tested their skills but had deepened the bond between them. It was no longer just a childhood promise. It was a living connection that had influenced the fate of a city and possibly, one day, even the alliance between worlds. Ethan knew that challenges would come again. Other threats might appear, and not all humans would rise to the occasion. But in this moment he felt the power of human qualities: courage, loyalty, and creativity, and how they could inspire even the most advanced alien civilization. Liara placed a hand gently on his arm. "Rest now," she said. "You have done more than many could dream of. But know this, the promise is ongoing. There will be times when it is tested again and you will be ready." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He was no longer just an explorer or a visitor. He was a bridge, a protector, and a friend. The childhood promise had brought him here, but it was his human qualities that had allowed him to make a difference. As he watched Liara walk back toward her palace, Ethan felt hope and determination. The universe was vast and filled with challenges, but he understood something important now. Humans had a place among the stars, not because of power or weapons, but because of heart, courage, and the bonds they kept. And as he prepared to rest, he whispered to himself, "I will keep the promise, always." After the battle, the alien city began to hum with renewed life. Repairs were underway, and citizens moved with purpose, restoring what had been damaged. Ethan walked beside Liara, observing the city's recovery. Despite the exhaustion in his muscles, he felt an exhilaration he had never known. The city had survived, and it was clear that his human ingenuity had played a crucial part in that survival. Liara led him to a quiet garden that had been untouched by the conflict. The plants here were strange yet beautiful, glowing softly under the light of the twin moons. Streams wound through the flowers, reflecting the colors of petals that seemed to shimmer with life. Birds with transparent wings flitted about, singing melodies Ethan had never heard before. "This garden has always been a place of reflection," Liara said, her voice calm and serene. "Even in times of danger, it reminds us why we protect what we have." Ethan nodded, taking in the beauty around him. "It's amazing. Even after everything that happened, it feels peaceful here." Liara's eyes softened as she looked at him. "That is the strength of our people and of those we trust. Courage and loyalty are not enough on their own. We must have reason, reflection, and care for life. That is what you showed during the battle." Ethan felt warmth in his chest. He had always believed humans were capable of great things, but hearing it from someone as wise and powerful as Liara made the truth hit harder. I did what I could," he said quietly. "I never imagined it would make such a difference." Liara reached out, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "Your difference was made because you acted with a human heart. You are adaptable, brave, and loyal. That is rare, not just among humans, but among many species I have encountered. Today, You proved that the bond we formed years ago was meaningful and lasting. They sat together on a carved stone bench near the stream. Ethan's thoughts wandered back to their childhood meeting, to the promise that had seemed so small at the time. They had been children, curious and innocent, unaware of the worlds they would one day touch. And yet that simple promise to remember each other had endured. "I can't believe you remembered everything," Ethan said, shaking his head in awe. I thought maybe time would erase it." Liara smiled faintly. "Time changes many things, but it does not destroy the heart's intentions. The promise mattered then, and it matters now. You see, Ethan, humans have qualities that even the most advanced civilizations find remarkable. Courage, creativity, empathy. These are not just words. They are action and they endure." Ethan felt a rush of emotion. "I never imagined that my small promise could carry so much weight. I just wanted to be remembered, I guess." Liara looked at him with understanding. "You were remembered, and your actions today have honored that memory. Your courage and your loyalty are proof that some bonds can transcend time, distance, and even worlds." For a while, they sat in silence, listening to the gentle flow of the stream and the soft songs of the alien birds. Ethan realized that this moment, quiet and peaceful, was just as important as the battles he had fought. It was a reminder of what they were protecting, not just the city, but the connections between beings, the trust that had been earned and nurtured. Liara spoke again, her voice softer now, almost reflective. "There is more to a promise than remembering. There is acting, defending, and ensuring that what is valued survives. Today you have done all of that. You have made our bond stronger than ever." Ethan felt a deep sense of pride, not in himself but in the bond they shared. It was rare to find someone, human or alien, who could understand the significance of a promise, who could respect and honor it across years and worlds. And yet here was Liara, standing before him, living proof that some connections were unbreakable. "You're amazing, Liara," he said quietly, "not just as a princess but as a person. You carry so much responsibility, and yet you remember." She laughed softly, a sound like wind through crystal trees. "Responsibility is heavy, but it is lighter when one remembers why it exists. I protect my people because I care for them, and I remember the bonds that shaped who I am. You were part of that, Ethan. You helped shape me even as a child." Ethan felt a lump in his throat. "I never thought a small promise could do so much, but now I see. It can change everything." They walked through the garden, passing flowers that glowed with soft light and streams that whispered as they flowed. Ethan felt a sense of wonder he had not experienced in years. The world was vast, filled with mysteries and challenges, but it was also filled with beauty and connections that made life meaningful. As they reached a bridge over a wide stream, Liara stopped. "There's one more thing you should know," she said. "The bond we share is not just a memory. It is a foundation. It can inspire others, and it can shape the future of our worlds. Today, humans and aliens saw what cooperation, trust, and courage can achieve. That is powerful." Ethan nodded, understanding the depth of her words. "I never imagined that being human could mean so much in another world. I always thought of strength as physical or technological, but now I see. It's about heart, about action, about keeping promises." Liara smiled, a faint but genuine curve of her lips. "Exactly. That is why you matter here. That is why the promise matters. And that is why we will face whatever comes next together, with trust and courage." For the next several days, Ethan worked closely with Liara and her council, helping to restore the city, train the young guardians, and strengthen defenses against any future threats. He found that his human perspective brought new ideas that the aliens had not considered, and they began to value his insights. More importantly, he began to understand that being human was extraordinary, not because of strength or weapons, but because of the ability to act with heart, creativity, and loyalty in moments that truly mattered. Liara often watched him quietly, seeing not only his intelligence and courage but also the kindness and determination that defined him. She had met many beings in her lifetime, but few had demonstrated such a balance of bravery and empathy. She realized that the childhood promise they had made was not just a memory, it was a living connection that had grown stronger through time and action. One evening, as the twin moons rose high in the sky, Ethan and Liara stood on a terrace overlooking the city. The light reflected off the streams and towers, casting everything in a soft glow. The city was alive, peaceful, and thriving once more. "You've changed our world," Liara said quietly. "Not with power alone, but with courage, ingenuity, and trust. That is something humans do best." Ethan looked at her, feeling a deep respect and admiration. "I only did what I could. But I see now. Humans have something special. Something that lasts even when time and distance separate us. The promise. It led me here, and it guided me in ways I never imagined." Liara's eyes softened. "And that is why we will continue forward. Together. For the city, for our people, and for the bond that we share. That bond is not forgotten, Ethan. It is alive, and it will guide us." Ethan felt a sense of peace and purpose he had never known. The bond they shared was more than a childhood memory. It was a promise fulfilled through courage, action, and understanding. He realized that being human was not about being the strongest, the fastest, or the most technologically advanced. It was about heart, loyalty, and the willingness to act when it mattered most. As they stood in silence, watching the city glow beneath the twin moons, Ethan whispered to himself, "I will never forget. I will always honor that promise." Liara placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "And I will always remember. Together we will face the future, guided by what we have proven to ourselves and to each other." That is the power of a promise kept. For the first time in his life, Ethan truly understood what it meant to keep a promise. Not in words alone, but in deeds, in courage, and in heart. The city was safe, the bond was strong, and the future, though uncertain, was filled with possibility. As night settled over the city, Ethan and Liara stood side by side, two beings from different worlds united by a promise, a battle, and an understanding that some connections could transcend time, distance, and even species. And in that moment he knew that humans could inspire, protect, and achieve greatness not through power alone, but through the qualities that made them who they were: brave, loyal, and true. The story of a childhood promise had become a story of courage, trust, and unity. And as Ethan looked at Liara and the city around them, he understood that this was only the beginning of something far greater, a journey where humans and aliens could learn from each other, and where bonds of heart could shape the destiny of worlds. Ethan walked carefully through the dense forest, his boots crunching softly against the alien soil. The light of the twin moons cast long silver shadows over the towering trees. He had always loved exploring new worlds, but this one felt different. There was a quiet, almost sacred energy in the air. Birds with shimmering feathers flitted between branches, and strange luminous flowers opened their petals to the moonlight. This was not a place humans had fully mapped, and the thrill of discovery ran through him like electricity. The mission had seemed simple at first. Earth's Interstellar Council had sent him and a small team to survey planets that could serve as allies or new colonies. But as he wandered further from the main settlement, he realized there was more here than anyone had anticipated. Ancient structures peeked out from the forest, covered in vines and moss, as though nature itself had tried to hide them from prying eyes. He felt a chill run down his spine. Something told him this planet had secrets it was not ready to share. Ethan paused beside a stream, listening to the gentle ripple of water over smooth stones. The sound was calming, but in the back of his mind he felt tension building. The air seemed heavier the deeper he went. He adjusted his pack, checking his equipment. His translator and communicator were secure, but he knew that if the planet's inhabitants were not friendly, technology alone might not save him. Suddenly, a movement in the shadows caught his eye. A figure emerged between the trees, graceful and fast. Ethan raised his hands instinctively, calling out in a calm voice, "I mean no harm." The figure stopped, and for a moment Ethan thought it was an animal, but then he saw it. A humanoid shape, taller than any human, with skin that seemed to shimmer in the moonlight. Her eyes glowed faintly and her posture was regal. "Who are you?" Ethan asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "I am Liara," the figure replied, her voice soft yet commanding. "You are far from your settlement, human." Ethan froze. The name was familiar, though he could not place it. His mind raced back to his childhood, to a visit he had made to an alien diplomatic exhibition on Earth years ago. There had been a young alien girl there, curious and fearless, who had spoken to him in halting human words. They had shared a moment, a promise almost in passing that they would never forget each other. Could this be her? Liara stepped closer, tilting her head slightly as though she were studying him. You remember nothing, she said, almost as a statement, not a question. Yet I remember everything. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. I remember bits, he admitted. But I thought you might have forgotten. She smiled faintly, a gesture that seemed almost impossible given her stoic demeanor. A promise is not so easily forgotten. He stared at her, trying to reconcile the small, laughing girl he remembered with the powerful princess before him. There was something about her, the confidence, the grace, the quiet authority that made him instinctively respect her. At the same time, there was warmth in her gaze, a memory of something innocent and pure. I don't understand, he said. Why are you here in the forest? My people have lived hidden for centuries, Liara explained. We protect this land and our knowledge from outsiders. You have crossed into a sacred place. Most would not survive this encounter. Ethan nodded slowly, raising his hands to show he was unarmed. I'm only here to explore, to understand. I mean no harm. Liara studied him silently for a long moment. Then with a fluid movement, she gestured for him to follow. Come. If you wish to prove your intentions, you will see our city. As they walked, Ethan noticed the way the forest seemed to respond to her presence. Flowers leaned slightly toward her, and even the air seemed lighter in her path. He followed quietly, trying not to break the fragile silence. The city gradually came into view, a collection of structures that looked grown rather than built, with sweeping curves, organic spires, and delicate bridges connecting them. Light pulsed gently from within the buildings, illuminating the pathways with a soft, calming glow. It is beautiful, Ethan whispered, awed by the sight. It is my home, Liara said simply, and you are the first human to set foot here willingly in many generations. They reached a courtyard filled with water gardens and alien sculptures. Liara gestured to a seat carved from a single piece of luminous stone. Ethan sat cautiously, aware that he was being observed. Why do you remember the promise? He asked after a moment, curiosity overtaking his caution. Liara looked at him, her eyes reflecting the twin moons above. Because promises are a bond. A bond once formed cannot be broken by time or distance. You were brave then as you are now, and you acted without fear of failure. That is rare among humans. Ethan swallowed, feeling a mix of pride and embarrassment. I was just a kid. I didn't know what I was doing half the time. Liara's lips curved into a faint smile. Perhaps. But you kept your word. That is what matters. They spoke late into the night, sharing memories of their brief childhood encounter. Ethan learned of Liara's responsibilities as princess, the challenges she faced leading her people, and the loneliness that came with power. He spoke of humanity's struggles, its curiosity, and its need to reach for the stars. For the first time, Ethan realized that humans were not just explorers or conquerors. They had qualities that others admired. Their resilience, their loyalty, their willingness to risk everything for others. It was something that could not be replicated, no matter how advanced another species might be. As dawn approached, the forest began to glow with a soft light. Ethan knew he would have to report back to his team, but he also knew that something profound had changed. The memory of a childhood promise had brought him here, to this alien world, to a person who understood humans better than he had expected. Liara walked him to the edge of the city. You may return to your people, she said, but remember, the promise was made for a reason. The bond between us is stronger than time. Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of her words. I won't forget, he said. You mustn't, she replied, her eyes lingering on his before she turned back toward her palace. As Ethan walked back into the forest, he felt a mixture of awe, responsibility, and hope. This encounter was not just a memory revisited. It was a beginning. The universe was larger than he had imagined, and humans had a role to play that went beyond exploration. Their courage, their empathy, and their ability to form bonds that even alien civilizations could respect, were powerful in ways he was only beginning to understand. For the first time, Ethan realized that being human was something to be proud of, something extraordinary in its simplicity, and as the twin moons set behind the distant hills, he whispered to himself, I will honor that promise always.